what it does do, and I think, well, traditionally what comedy's done is it takes very serious topics that we actually rather not talk about, and it frames it in a light where we can get away with talking about it for a little bit, where it doesn't feel labored and overly serious. And yeah, I think it's also an opportunity a lot of the time to share the truth, which is very important nowadays.
Good morning, Themba. So great to meet you here on Zoom.
Hi there, how's it going?
Great. And where are you based, Themba?
I'm currently in my studio in London, Johannesburg.
Okay. So you work from there. That's your what studio? Is it your like you create media, I see on social
Yeah,
media. Mm.
yeah. So we do. This is actually this is where we do all our editing. But we've got a voiceover booth, and then we've got a video studio where we shoot a lot of video and take stills photos and all of that. And it's all for anything to do with media, for small companies, social media, to big adverts. Yeah.
Mm. Well, I talked to your colleague Bauer Bosch recently, did an interview with him, and I follow you both because of the sketches that you do that I think is hilarious. And I spoke to Bauer about that as well, how you just absolutely tap into those little things about South Africa and South Africans, and it's sort of I don't know how to say it, but it's like you just have that button that you push every time.
Yeah, we've got to be careful about pushing buttons, I think, in general. Um, but yeah, I think from the first time we ever chatted, we always wanted to make thought-provoking stuff, but things that are South African across the board. Not for any particular demographic, and I think highlighting our commonalities more so than our differences is also quite it's quite important. Or at least if we're highlighting our differences, making them a thing to celebrate as opposed to something that should divide us.
Mm. And humor is something that's so great to have in situations where things are difficult for people.
Mm. Yeah, I think I've said it in an interview before and saying as as long as humanity's been around, there have been people who are there for comedic relief. In the medieval times, you had jesters who belonged to, worked for the king, and they would do whatever they needed to make sure that the people and that the king and that laughed. And so it's a very old trade, and it's an equally important trade because I think what it does do, and I think, well, traditionally what comedy's done is it takes very serious topics that we actually rather not talk about, and it frames it in a light where we can get away with talking about it for a little bit, where it doesn't feel labored and overly serious. And yeah, I think it's also an opportunity a lot of the time to share the truth, which is very important nowadays.
Mm. And I think also the fact that you allow people to laugh at themselves, because some of the sketches that you do really you make a bit of fun of a certain types of things or people or things that people do. I would say little habits that we do that we don't even realize we're doing, and then it's sort of, hey, yeah, I see myself there, and then you sort of have a bit of a laugh at yourself.
I think that's exactly it, because we live an information heavy time, and a lot of the time the information, as we say, it's pushed out to cause divisions and cause people to have conflict with one another. And we don't really have a lot of time to process a lot of the stuff. So a lot of the time you take the information you give and you go, this is my idea or my reaction to it, and then you go with it. But if you slow the wheel a little bit and you go and say, it's funny that between me and my completely different mate, culturally we both love frying. Fire and meat is the foundations of our society, and you look at guys and you say, if you're really starting with those fundamentals that are exactly the same, you can find so many other ways where we're alike. And then like I say, when we get to the differences, we could say, but it's funny that you guys do this and we don't. And that's laughable, especially in a country where we have the most cultural diversity. And so, I mean, I think in a sense that should make us stronger than everybody else, because we've just got a wealth of information from so many different cultures, all at our fingertips, that many countries don't have. So, as I said, I think it's definitely a strength.
But then also, it's that fine line where you can offend somebody's. If cultures with different cultures and people are very overly sensitive to what to say, and there are situations where you probably have to think, are we going to cross the line here?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we can't really ever control how sensitive anyone's going to be. I think there's always a possibility that someone, and I mean, we've had it one or two times where somebody's gone, oh well, we don't like what you guys have said there or something. What I think we are quite conscious of a lot of the time is, and maybe this is more personally myself with my content, is how factual things are, because there's quite a common saying that says facts don't care about your feelings. I think it's a very harsh saying, but the basis is correct in that if the humor is based on fact and something that's common knowledge, we're well within our rights to exploit it for humor and get people talking about it. And I think a lot of the time, people that get overly offended or easily offended, I feel sorry for the way that they might feel, but commonly or a lot of the time, it's not always rational. They're upset because they've joined extra dots to feel hard done by something. You're saying, well, we weren't saying this about you. We're saying about this person or that person, or and I think a lot of things it's behavior, and behavior can always be changed. So it's not to label anybody. My dad always used to say when we were growing up, he would specifically watch his words and say, you don't ever say to somebody, you are stupid or you are dumb. If somebody messed something up, you don't say you are stupid. You can say what you've done is stupid or silly. And therefore you haven't attached it to anybody. You haven't attached to the person. You've made it a behavior thing, and behavior can be changed. So therefore they have an opportunity to do better. And I think, the way that the language that we use and the message that we portray, it's never to say, oh, this is your label and that's it, stuck. Things can always change. And I think hopefully our messaging is something that can change people's way of thinking for the better.
Absolutely, yeah. But now, Themba, you grew up in South Africa. Where did you grow up exactly?
It's for the Ooskaap off, the little old PE, and I bounced around in some other small towns like Maltino, near Dordrecht, out that side. And I've been in Johannesburg now for about seven years. Yeah.
So your humor and your comedy side, is that from where you grew up? Is that something where you always the funny guy?
always trying to be the clown, I think. But I think my humor definitely comes from my dad. He's got a very strange way of looking at the world, and sort of looking at scenarios and going, what if we change some of the variables? Could what could come out of it. So my dad loved to watch a lot of the Monty Python, and yeah, from a music perspective, he loved that Weird Al Yankovic, who rewrites songs, and so we grew up with very offbeat kind of um, humor at home, and that definitely played through.
Mm. And in the school that you were you also there, sort of seen as the funny guy, or did you use your humor as a child as well?
Yeah, I think I used my humor a little bit as a survival thing.
Mm.
Everybody wants to fit in, and if I wasn't the biggest guy or the strongest guy or the guy from the wealthiest family or anything, so the humor was my ticket to being
Oh, okay.
included in the group, and so that was what I went for. Um, and I mean, I think it came naturally to me. I love telling stories. I love I love making people laugh and just lightening, putting a little bit of light in everybody's day. So it makes me feel good. It's almost a perpetual little cycle. Yeah.
But when you grew up, you said that you grew up in the Eastern Cape.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's small town, and now you're in the big city in Johannesburg.
Yeah.
Was that a big transition for you to get working there and get yourself established there?
Yeah, no, it definitely was. I mean, I'm the kid who was used to going to small schools my whole life, and I remember when I started school, I had to go to a high school that had about 1,000 kids in a single grade, and I'd only been to schools that had like 60 in a grade, and it overwhelmed me completely. So, um, surviving in Joburg is actually quite a surprise, to be honest. Um, but I think it's also the point or stage of your life that you're at, and like now mid 30s or 33. That's not quite mid. I've got more time. Um, but there's a big drive, and Johannesburg is where people are willing to have conversations and try out things. And I use myself and Bo as an example. We had a coffee this yeah, I mean we're coming to our 1 year anniversary now, kind of thing. I think lots of people think that we've been mates for years. We met
Yeah, it looks like
a
that.
couple
Mm.
yeah a couple of weeks ago last year, kind of thing. And it was a conversation, and we tried some things out and they worked, and so that's what it became. And it's really nice, I think, to live in a realm where people are willing to have the conversations and
Mm.
maybe even set something up and get things going. So that's been really fun about Johannesburg. It's a big place. It's a fast place. For the last 7 years, I've lived on a farm outside Joburg, which has been my sort of solace and peace. But yeah, we moved into town now. It's part and parcel of it. I'm having to be closer to studios and all the amenities. So yeah, but it's been a crazy ride.
But how
Yeah.
did you and Bauer meet each other? You said it's just a coffee, but how exactly did you get together? Because you seem to fit
Um,
like a hand in a glove, really.
Yeah, it's very strange that we sort of sought each other out, or I think I more pursued it, but or at least at the beginning. I had seen he did an advert for Courier Guy. So his agency Freckle, they did an ad for Courier Guy, and I really liked their writing style, and I love the old school South African advertising. The 90s was a
Oh,
golden
yeah.
era, and there's so many iconic adverts from that time that adverts that have actually contributed to people's lives. And I think that's what I would like to do from a writing perspective, because we work in the media and space, and um, a lot of advertising. And I felt that advertising over the years has become this hard sell, one-way transaction, whereas it used to be, and it's even more important now because we have less time and we advertise to so much, as a trade-off for a viewer or a consumer, is to say, let me leave you with something for your 30 seconds or 60 seconds of the day that you spend watching, my stuff. And so when I saw their ads, I was like, man, these guys, this resonates with me. They've got a cool thing because I watch the advertising, but I laugh, so I get something from it. So I emailed him to say, hey, man, I think initially I just wanted to act in one of their commercials or something like that. And so, just emailed him and say, I love your work. I'd love for us to work together at some point. And he emailed me back maybe like a week or so later, and he's like, I actually have an opportunity I need to do for a shoot. Can you be the actor? And I was booked for another job that day. And so I was like, I'm sorry, man. And then he said, no, it's fine. There'll be other times. And when somebody says that, you're going, oh, well, there we go. That's the end of it. So I thought at that time, I was like, well, there we go. But I think it was towards the end of the year, sort of end of December, Jan. We were both in Joburg, hadn't gone away, and so we thought, hey, let's meet up for a coffee. And so we had a coffee and we chatted, and it was a really good conversation. And I think even though I'd never formalized ideas, as we were going, playing that conversational tennis, things became clearer and clearer. And we're going, oh yeah, that would be cool. And then what if we did this? And then if you have that experience with somebody so early on, you've got something to pursue. Yeah.
And it's great to discover a collaboration. People always talk about collaborations and how that brings out so much more than if you're working on your own.
Yeah. I mean, I think being in this space, it can be quite lonely. I spend a lot of the time editing voiceovers here in the studio, and so it's a lot of time spent by yourself, and a lot of writing's done by yourself. So I think that initially is just such a nice thing, is to be able to curate ideas with someone. But then also you're able to add a different kind of flavor, and there's new ideas that come out of somewhere. And like I talk about that conversational tennis, so many great ideas come from that back and forth, where you go, what about this? And then the other person goes, oh, this is better. And then you go, no, this is better. And you just build it up. And you can't have that just by yourself.
But now you do your own sketches as well. That's what I saw. And you do sketches about you as a dad, which I love.
Thank you.
Does that come? Do you just think that up as the day goes by, or is it specific themes that you want to get out there?
No, I think it's as and when. I think one of the last videos is trying to feed my daughter, and she's just putting her food on her head. And I mean, it's first of all, I mean, I've only been. We got two kids, and my oldest one, my son Ben, he'll be 3 in March, and then the other, my daughter's just turned 1 in October, and so I'm fairly new to the whole dad thing, and it's one of the craziest and best things that's ever happened, and it's just, children are fascinating. They are incredible little creatures, and to understand that's where humans, human adults spawn from these tiny little creatures. It's amazing. And we've got a lot of social responsibility in South Africa with the gender-based violence and all those things, where people are looking at men and saying, okay, cool, what are you guys doing? And traditionally, men have been involved in raising and spending time in the house and that. And I don't think that's anybody's fault, but we live in a completely different time now. Yeah. I have a flexible schedule, so I can do the school run. I'm not opposed to doing a nappy or two every now and then. It's not my favorite. I definitely never pretended.
Nobody's favorite, that one.
But it's an opportunity, I think, to share that, being a proud dad, being an involved dad is it's a very cool thing, and there's a lot of reward in it. And I think if I can share that a little bit, maybe it helps 1 or 2 dads to have conversations and say, I like being a dad, and I like being involved with my kids, and that could work really well.
And And also this, I mean, I know, especially with me growing up, and I'm sure with you also growing up, our dads were not so involved in our the day-to-day stuff. You know, I'm not saying the upbringing, but the day-to-day stuff. And you really tackling the day-to-day stuff, like you're saying, you know, like feeding your daughter or so. Yeah, I think that's wonderful that you do that, and also bringing out that humor in it.
Yeah, because I mean, I think it's probably one of the toughest jobs. It's we spent December wondering if we're going to make it out alive. Just my wife and I and the two kids, because I was like, this is craziness. This is madness. I, I'd rather work with no holiday for 4 years than be left alone with my kids for a whole month again. You know, with nowhere to go, or not nowhere to go, but having to plan
Yeah,
each and every day.
yeah,
It's really an intense job.
mm,
But if you look for the humor, it is everywhere.
yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, Themba, so you do voiceovers as well. So tell me about that
Yeah.
side of the job. How did you get to do that?
So a lot of my stories kind of I forged my own path where everybody was like, these are the steps you should go. I kind of just went through the bushes this way and
Sounds like
dragged
me.
myself out backwards. So I got myself a little microphone. Actually, a friend of mine got me a little microphone. A couple of years ago, probably about 7 years ago. And so I thought, hey, listen, I'll try this voiceover thing. Lots of people have said, hey, you should try and be on radio. And I tried. I tried to get on radio a million times, and it didn't work out. So I thought, let me try voiceovers, and I had no idea how to break into the South African market. I didn't know anyone, so I found a couple of online websites, and it turns out that the rest of the world's actually quite hungry for South African and African voices.
Mm,
Um, so I think one of the big things, especially from the South African perspective, a lot of companies don't want to be identified as being in any particular place. And the South African accent is quite neutral in that you
mm.
actually can't pinpoint. And most people will bounce it off an Australian or an English, British kind of accent.
Yeah.
So people struggle to place it, and that's what the companies want. So I found that out online. And so for a couple of years, I worked primarily just online, a couple of
Mm,
websites, and my first year I did 3 jobs, I think,
mm,
and then my next year I probably did 10. And
mm,
it's only actually when I started calling myself a voiceover artist, then everyone said, "Oh, well, my friend needs a voiceover, and this friend needs a voiceover." And then I got a local agent, and yeah, now I do voiceovers for some really big companies. Um, and it's a really fun and fulfilling job, because also with on-screen work you'll always be you can put on a character, but everybody always knows it's you fundamentally,
mm.
whereas with voiceover you could be anybody.
Anyone. Yeah.
You could be a Hercules hero or a tiny kid. Yeah.
Mm. But you now what you that you talked about the accents so much is yes, people sometimes when I speak here in Europe, they would say, "Oh, is it Australian?" No, no, no. Oh, yeah, yeah, South African. Then they'll, "Oh, yeah, 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 South African." But you have a British twang also in your accent, so you don't sound so South African. So I can imagine you can get away with quite a lot.
Yeah, I think so that's my grand's doing.
Mm.
So she's from the UK,
Mm.
and as children we're always taught you don't say yeah. Um it's if we got called, we never said yeah, it was yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
And so yeah, it's mostly home life. We this
Mm.
is this is how we spoke, kind of thing. And yeah, it's part and parcel, which is it's really handy. But I
Mm.
think if you catch me down in the Eastern Cape, with my friends down there, it's quite a different accent from time to time.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I think it's a natural thing when you're amongst your, amongst your friends or your family that your accent changes. But
Yeah.
now, and tell me, can you see in your children? Okay, so you have a baby, but you have a youngster. Can you see something of you, of humor, of being the funny one?
Yeah, I mean, I think both kids could definitely have it. Um,
Mm.
I think personality wise, one of them has to be like my wife because they look quite like me. So just to give
Oh,
her
okay.
something for her hard work. So maybe one of them can have her personality.
Mm.
But my son's an interesting blend of the two of us. But
Okay.
he's going to be a little. I think he's going to be a little showman.
Okay.
He talks, and I think every parent. This is a problem. So I think every parent thinks that their kid is the smartest kid in the world,
Mm.
and it's a tough thing because you got to rein yourself. You got to rein yourself every now and then. But he talks just about fluently, and his ideas and his expressions are incredible. So I think he's definitely going to be a storyteller of some kind, or at least that's a strong point. Is
Mm.
he understands inflection and he pulls information from the strangest of places, and his retention is quite good. So I think he'll be a little storyteller. My daughter's a heck of a character, but she's more stern. She doesn't smile
Oh,
for
okay.
for anyone. So we'll
Okay.
see. Maybe
Maybe that
maybe
will
we,
be
we won't
a
push her out front and center for the family entertainment yeah jobs.
yeah. Well, wait till they're teenagers, then the true colors will shine.
And I'm petrified for that, eh? Oh,
Oh,
it's
I survived 3, so you're fine. You'll make it.
yeah. Let's do yeah. Uh, we'll talk in 10 years.
Yeah. But Themba, now tell me, what are still the wishes for you for the future?
I think last year was a very fruitful year for me, and it was a culmination of about 5 or 6 years of hard work. And so, almost getting to the point where I'm a household name, which is, I mean, very far off, but at least working towards it. And there's promise that that could be the end goal. So now it's kind of just setting up a brand and figuring out what that brand really is. Is it? Because well, let me put it this way: I don't think I'm ever going to be the flashy Lamborghini, um,
Mm.
you know, like a lot of the pop stars and a lot of famous South Africans are. I think I'd probably try and stay true to the everyday guy.
Mm.
If I get a Lamborghini, then I'll drive it. But I mean,
Mm.
I'll be an everyday guy. So
But
it's
you'll
it's
wave
just
at
it's
people
just
in a nice way.
yeah, exactly. I'll give people lifts. I'll
Yeah,
take
yeah,
people
yeah,
around.
yeah. I'm with you there.
Um, so it's mostly figuring out what my brand will be,
Mm.
and then I have a very strong sense, or what's one thing that's super important for me is being valuable to the system. So rather than just being a talent, being able to write, being able to have a studio where we record. Um, so I'd like to direct a little bit this year. Um, Maybe try and make a name for myself there. And then the world of comedy, stand-up comedy, is something that I wanted to tackle for a long time, and I got a good few opportunities last year to get on stage, and it went well. So I'd really like to, by the end of the year, write at least a solid 40 minute set that we can show to the world. So there's a lot on the go, and I
Mm.
feel like I'm already running out of time looking at how many months are left in the year. But
Mm.
yeah, feeling very blessed, and I think um, if I keep my head down, things should work out.
Well, stand up is always, people think it's easy, but it's quite difficult, I hear. And South Africa has got most amazing stand-up comedians, and I'm sure you will be as great, really, because your humor is just so wonderful, and you should really do it. You should really go for it.
No, I'll take that. I'll heed the advice, and yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm going to look forward to seeing your first stand-up show.
Done deal. No pressure now. I better
Yeah.
get to it.
You better get to work. You said the end of the year. I'll be watching. Themba, this
Thank
was
you.
so great to talk to you, and really all the best. I love your work. I love your work with Bauer. I hope you and Bauer will still continue doing sketches together, because I just think the combination of you two and your humor together, and there's just something magical when watching you two together. It's great. So I hope there's some more, and all the best with your voiceovers, and then the stand-up is the next that I'll be looking forward to.
No, thank you, and thank you for inviting me on. And it's been a great experience having the conversation. And there's a funny thing that happens of self reflection when when you talk. You
Yeah.
talk out about these things. So yeah, really enjoyed it, and thank you for the platform.
It's a great pleasure, and hope to see you one day in Vienna.
I, the comedy will take me there.
Exactly.
Thank you, Petra.
Okay, Themba. Have a nice day. Bye.
And you too.
Bye.
Ciao.